Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to talk about is our four German watches under $4,000. Well, actually I'm talking about German craftsmanship. These are German watches with German craftsmanship, and that's important. And so the first thing I want to do is why under 4,000? Actually, would be 4,000 Swiss francs. And the reason for that is that that's a new category. It's called their challenge category for the Grand Prix d'Horloge de Genève. And so if you have a watch under 4,000 Swiss francs, you can enter it into the contest. And one of the things about it is that you don't have to have an in-house movement. You can use anybody's movement. But still, I thought, well, I have something. So I got four of them. They're all under 4,000 Swiss francs. A Swiss franc is it's right between $1 and €1 in terms of its value. So it's a pretty good balanced one. Anyway, I have the prices in both euros and dollars, depending on my source that I had for it. Okay, let's start with the whole notion of German craftsmanship. And I have an example here of a Lang Heyne, Frederick II. And some of the characteristics are, first of all, a gold chatons, and these are around the jewels are these little gold sort of buffers, I guess you'd call them, are cushions. And they're there because back in the old days, the jewels that they used, they wanted to protect them because they were very, relatively expensive and rare. Today they have man-made jewels, and they're not used too often. In fact, I was looking at my watch collection, and none of them had it, even the very best. Now, the FP Journe that have a gold base plate, of course they're surrounded by gold, but the idea was that the gold chatons would cushion and protect the precious jewels. Okay, so that's one thing. Thermally blued screws, engraved balance cocks and exposed base plates, swan-neck regulators, exposed movements. Now, by exposed movements, I suppose we would start with exposed movement. It was what they called the three-quarter plate over the movement, so a big hunk of it was exposed. And then what I call case-fitted movements. Now, the case-fitted movements is something I added. That's not necessarily part of German craftsmanship, but something I sort of like. So I thought I'd add it. Okay, so now looking at this one, the example one that's roughly around $22,000. And so, like I said, I was trying to find something. Well, let's see if we can find some German craftsmanship that's lower. But before we do that, I wanted to take a look at some other examples of German craftsmanship. Here is a Lange Söhne. It's with a three-quarter plate. And if you look at the close-up, you can see the engraving around the cock, the balance cock there. And next to it is Moritz Grossmann. This one is about €20,000. It has a 3/5 plate, which is even smaller and exposes more of the movement. And you can see it has the gold chatons and the also to the engraving. So this is typical German. By the way, too, the A Lange, they're called screwed chatons. Now, by that, you can see on either side of it, there's a little blued screw on it. Finally, on the Glashütte original, there's another one. It's got the three-quarter plate. It has the screwed gold chatons, and it's got engraving around the movement, around the escapement and the balance wheel and so forth, and on the balance cock. Okay, so that's more of them. Finally, I wanted to take a look at this one, Rolf Lang Dresden, and he has his movement is called the Canaletto, and he has two of them. One is the expensive one, and the other one is the less expensive one. The less expensive one, the watches start about $14,000. So anyhow, they're up there. The other ones that we just looked at, I think the least expensive was a 10,000 euro Glashütte original. Okay, so in looking at this, you have on the one in gold, you have the gold layering on the plates. You have the hand engraving, you have the gold chatons, and again with their screwed chatons. And you have the engraving on the balance cock on both of them. You also have the snailing on the barrel. You see that in a lot of your better German watches. In terms of German craftsmanship that's added to the watch. So even with the entry level on the Rolf Lang Dresden, you can see that there's engraving and there are the gold chatons. But they left out the snailing on the barrel and the gold layering on the plates. So anyhow, this, if you look at all of your good German watches, you're finding that same kind of thing. So how do you find that in something more affordable? And actually, it turned out, much to my delight and surprise, that there were some makers that made them. Now, just about all of them use the ETA Unitas 6497 or 98. These two here on the Thomas Ninkrist both use the 6498. You can tell the 98 because the small seconds are at the bottom at the 6 o'clock. Okay, well, you can't, I mean, if you look at the dials, they're pretty nice dials they have. One is a regulator and the other one's called the Cathedral. All right, now when we turn it over, when we look at the back, here's a modified ETA Unitas 6498. You've got a swan neck at the regulator. You've got the engraving on the balance cock. You have the hand engraving both on the main plate and on different places on it. And so you also have the screwed gold chatons. All right, like I said, this is the gold chatons, or something that's really not needed anymore, but it's part of the craftsmanship. I mean, that's what we're looking at. That's the only thing that we're really paying much attention to right now. So you can find this, and both of the watches we looked at were both under, and there are more of them. I just gave two examples of the Thomas Ninkrist that are under 4,000. Okay, going on. This next one is really beautiful watches by Jaeger and Benzinger, and here there are a couple of them. One is 3950, that just made it under 4,000, and the other one is 3,500. The names of these are edition 1 and edition 2, something like that. The names are not, they don't knock themselves out on the creativity of the names. And you can see the movement up above there. Now, this movement, you can see the engraving on the balance cock, but you can also see on the main plate, it looks like a sun ray guilloche that's part of the balance. I don't know if the guilloche is a correct term for the metal work, but it has the same look to it. Okay, if there's another one by Jaeger and Benziger, this one's $3,400. And it has a center seconds rather than a sub-seconds. Now here, where you have a center seconds, you need to do something to the 6498 or 6497 that you're using, because they don't have center seconds. This one does. And if you look at the dial, you see the same kinds of decorations and the same kind, the engraving on the balance cock, and you see the gold chatons. But the thing about these chatons is that they're not screwed chatons. They're sort of sunk into the main plate, that would be the where you see those little the little jewels. They're all ruby colored jewels, so they're easy to spot there. But they don't have the gold chatons, but they are inlaid in a gold. I don't think that's a gold plate, but I do think it's gold plated. So anyway, that's another one. And there's like I said, this one at $3,400 is, has that kind of German craftsmanship in the back, working over over a Swiss movement. Okay, now these watches, Tourby watches, are sort of interesting. This one is called the Enamel 40, and it sells for €1,325. That's really the lowest we've seen so far. And you flip it over, and you look at the movement, and there's sort of these circular waves. There's no chatons of any sort. And you say, well, this doesn't really belong. Well, Tourby does something really interesting. They have extra charges for adding different kinds of engraving to it and other special features. And so they have the least engraving is called partial engraving. It's an added €600 to it. And here's one called Old Military, and its base price is €1,250. Adds 600 of that, and you have 1,850, well under the 4,000 Swiss francs we're going with right now, or that we're looking at. But that's a sort of interesting way. You can you're essentially, they're saying, well, if you want these special German craftsmanship, it's going to cost you extra, and you can have a little or you can have a lot of it. It's a very interesting approach to it. Okay, so that's Tourby watches. They got a great collection. I mean, just about everything you'd want. And the thing about Tourby is that they start off at, I think, the lowest prices of all the ones we're going to look at. And I figured, hey, I think I'll make it a little fancier, get some of that. And again, with the engraving we're talking about is hand engraving, and they get sort of this cool microscope, and the guy is working on it through that. All right, now the final one that we're going to look at has exactly one watch that's under $4,000, okay, or 4,000 Swiss francs. If it's under $4,000, it'd be under 4,000 Swiss francs. And this is the Dornblut and Son. Now, there's a lot of interesting things about them. But the most important thing is that the caliber 99.0, and the name of the watch is caliber 99.0 applied numerals, is at under 4,000. This is an in-house movement, though. This is one that it is a wind-up movement. It uses a 3/4 plate, which is a typical German thing. It has the screwed gold chatons, and it has the engraving on the dial cock. It also has engraving on the main plate, plus it's got the swan-neck regulator. And it has a snailed barrel wheel over the barrel. So here you have something with all of the examples of the German craftsmanship that we wanted to take a look at. It's under 4,000 Swiss francs. And it has an in-house movement. So this is an interesting one. But like I said, there was only one that was under 4,000. There were some other ones that were pretty close to it. But these were the ones that met the criteria that we had set up and talked about. Anyway, for those of you who are interested in German watches or just watches in general and craftsmanship in general, these are some very interesting ones that you might be interested in. And but importantly, I'd really like to hear what your opinions are of these watches, your ideas, and saying you like Swiss watches or you like Seikos or something else, or you like German watches but you want to get a Lange or something like that. All right, and as always, this is an invitation to subscribe if you'd like. And until next week, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.